Good morning, students of class 11. It is the fifth chapter from Snapshots, Mother's Day, in which you will know about how Mother's Day is celebrated. But in reality, what does happen to mother who is actually a housewife and how she has to bear the pain of the oppression of her husband as well as the children who consider that only she is meant for performing the things that can provide them comfort, and they ask for food, clothes, and so many things that they need for their daily course of life, but they don't notice what does mother actually need, where her feeling is hurt and where her emotions are badly injured. But if it is retreated and if it is aggravated by following the Western social activities that one performs, and she also wants to live a carefree life, at the time the children and husband has to realize. Really, if a freedom is given and if it is snatched, how it can be used in a limited way, that this lesson is the word conveyed by J.B. Priestley in a real manner. This is a humorous portrayal of the status of the mother in a family. So here there are some characters that you will know, and how it goes on that you will understand. Characters in the play, they are Mrs. Pearson, her husband George Pearson, and their siblings Doris Pearson, Cyril Pearson, and one of her friends. Mrs. Pearson's friend is Mrs. Fitzgerald, who is of modern view, who is educated, well educated, and she knows how to treat with such persons like husband and children, and how she can live a very sophisticated, without any complications, and a real life. So here you will know that when the curtain rises, it is the scene in the living room of the Pearsons family. It is afternoon, it is a comfortable condition. It is staged in a small suburban semi-detached villa. If necessary, only one door is there, and there can be muslin covered window in the left. So it is a very fantastic day. When curtain rises, it is afternoon, and Mrs. Pearson sits at the right of the table and Mrs. Fitzgerald is on the left. So here both of them have cups of coffee in their hands, and Mrs. Fitzgerald is older, heavier, and a strong and sinister personality, while Mrs. Pearson is a pleasant but worried-looking woman in her 40s. So here Mrs. Pearson is speaking in a light, flooded sort of tone, with a touch of suburban cockney perhaps, but Mrs. Fitzgerald, with a deep voice, rather Irish perhaps, she speaks something in a very drastic tone. It is the picture of J.B. Priestley here, John Wynton J.B. Priestley, 1894 to 1984. What a contrasting figure. All the figures are the same, but the places are different here. What is Mother's Day? It is the day when we remember when Mother brought me into this world and how much pain she might have borne in bringing up in her womb, and then finally she must have suffered excruciating pain to give me the birth, and finally I came into the world. So it is the time when whatever we can say to Mother in appreciations, that is not enough at all. It is the most pious and holy and tranquil moment to remember the Mother. Where is Mother's Day celebrated? Initially, Mother's Day was celebrated mainly in the Western countries. African countries borrowed the concept from UK and the US. Mother's Day is marketed as a day when you buy gifts for your mother and grandmothers. In Asian Pacific countries, Mother's Day is being emulated commercially in the same way as in the US, as it happens in America. Let us go back to history of Mother's Day. Probably originated in ancient Greece and Rome, first celebrated in the US in Grafton, West Virginia, US on May 10, 1908. 1914 marketed the first nationally celebrated Mother's Day in the US. When is Mother's Day celebrated? Normally, it is celebrated on second Sunday in May in the America, in the US and most countries including China and India, August 12th in Thailand, October in Argentina and November in Russia. Sometimes in May in most other countries, this very Mother's Day is celebrated. What can you do for your mom on Mother's Day? Give her a card or send her an email if she lives far away. Buy her some gifts, maybe flowers, chocolates, or something she will appreciate. Tell her how much she means to you. Create a quick PowerPoint greeting card with free Mother's Day templates, and you can make so many things to please her, to entertain her and keep her happy. That is the best gift. About the writer J.B. Presley, here 13th September 1894, born Manningham, Bradford, United Kingdom, 14th August 1984, died Stratford-upon-Avon, United Kingdom. It is the photograph of this J.B. Presley, who is a renowned English writer. Let us come to know the theme, Mother's Day theme. This humorous play portrays the status of the mother in the family. The author brings out the plight of the mother very realistically in the play. Mrs. Annie Pearson, the mother, is not treated well by her husband and children. With the help of her neighbor, Mrs. Fitzgerald, and a magic spell which temporarily allows them to interchange their roles, she stands up for her rights. Mrs. Annie Pearson's family is shocked. She is completely shocked at the change, but they learn to behave properly with her so that she gets the respect that she deserves. Mother's Day, about the characters I have told you, Mrs. Fitzgerald, Mrs. Annie Pearson's neighbor, she is quite strong-willed, knows magic and helps Annie Pearson to reform the spoiled members of Mrs. Annie Pearson's family. Mrs. Annie Pearson, she is a pleasant but nervous type of woman whose excessive love and care has spoiled her two children and husband. Doris Pearson, she is Mrs. Annie Pearson's daughter, aged around 20 years. She fails to understand her mother's struggle and does not help her in household work. Cyril Pearson, he is Mrs. Annie Pearson's son, who is equally demanding and never sympathizes with his mother. Mr. George Pearson, he is Mrs. Annie Pearson's proud husband, who is not as respected in society as expected. He dominates his wife, but he is ridiculed in the club where he is a member. Introduction of Mrs. Annie Pearson and Mrs. Fitzgerald. Mrs. Annie Pearson and Mrs. Fitzgerald are next door neighbors. Apart from this, there is no similarity between them. Annie is a pleasant and nervous-looking woman in her 40s. Fitzgerald is older and heavier with a strong personality. Annie has a soft voice, whereas Mrs. Fitzgerald has a deep, throaty voice. Here in this video, I told you all about its introduction and characters, and let us know something more in the next video. I will tell you. Thank you, children.